very excited for the Fireside today. I don't want to interrupt it. I'll be quick. But I'd love to share a personal experience with the organization. Is that okay?
Love it.
Beautiful. This is. I'll try not to be emotional, but the Big Brothers Big Sisters Association of America really changed my life. Oh, there's the picture. Sorry, 1 second. There you go. 30 years ago, I met Clayton Roth, my big brother. Over the years, he became a part of our family, and as he had kids, I was 8 when he first, essentially, started our relationship. We became a part of theirs, and I'm the man I am today because Clayton was in my life. On December 3rd, 2019, the world lost a genuine and caring man to colon and liver cancer. While it's painful that he's no longer here, I'm thankful for him and all of the life lessons he taught me. I would like to, Artis, in Clayton's name, I will be donating $10,000 to the Big Brothers Big Sisters Association, so that more people can experience what I have over the last 3 decades. Please give your time, please give your resources, whoever's listening. I guarantee it will be impactful. It will change lives.
Ryan, can I just say how thankful we are for your donation, for your investment, for your giving back, and just how grateful we are just to hear you talk about your story and the impact Clayton made in your life, right? And now how that impact is being passed on. It says a lot about you as a person. It says a lot about Clayton, and it says a lot about the mission of Big Brothers Big Sisters and the connections that it makes. So I can't tell you how much we appreciate it, and to continue to appreciate your partnership as well. It means the world, Ryan.
Thank you, Artis, and continue doing a tremendous work over there. And we will support everywhere we can in Influential. I will personally, and I'm very excited for the future of BBS.
Awesome.
Well, guys, I already interrupted, so please have your fireside, and I'll be listening. Thank you so much.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Ryan.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Artis, how you doing? Glad to have you back. I know last time we spoke, you were CMO of 4-H Council, so great to have you back in your new role as CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. So we'll get right into it. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself and about how you became CEO of Big Brothers and Big Sisters of America?
Yeah, well, Jordan, let me just say again how great it is to come back and do one of the Brand Innovator series again, so to be a returning guest, if you will. So good to see you as well. I'll just say this briefly. For me, I've been 2.5 months in the role of CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters of America. I feel honored, I feel privileged to have this role, and I feel the responsibility, not the responsibility that comes with an organization that has a 116-year legacy of impacting young people's lives. We were born out of the juvenile justice system. We were an alternative innovation to the juvenile justice system that helped reach the kids who needed us most, right? And that's what we've been doing over 116 years. And I'm proud because I get to wear this mantle as the first Black CEO of the organization in its 116-year history. And I don't carry that lightly. I carry it with a lot of great pride. I carry it also with the sense of what the model that means for so many young people who see this and know barriers that they're breaking and barriers that they will break. I'm the first, but I always tell people I won't be the last, because I believe in the potential of young people. I believe in what our country represents and the opportunity and access. And I believe in organizations like Big Brothers Big Sisters that change lives for the better. And that's what I remember growing up in my community. That's what I remember working in organizations, 25 years of working in youth development and youth serving organizations. And this organization is a youth empowerment organization because we empower young people to get to the life and the potential that we know that they have. And then the last thing I'll say, Jordan, because I think this is really important, is that last year, when everything was happening in all of our lives, a pandemic, when we were all facing the real scars that have been torn off, the bandages that have been torn off around racial injustice and social injustice in our country. For me, that was incredibly personal. Not simply just because I was a person of color, but also because one of the first names that sort of really broke open this conversation was Ahmaud Arbery. Ahmaud Arbery was from Brunswick, Georgia, my hometown. And For me, it was certainly the sense of everything that's happened in our society and continues to happen. But it was a small town, and no people in his family and friends and people that are connected. The street that he was murdered on, I walked on as a child. I remember that street. I remember the exact area that he was murdered. And it made me step back. And it made me step back, not if I was doing the right things, not if I was in the right call, in the right ministry, but was I doing enough? Was I committing myself in the way that I needed to commit to take that step, to take that leap? And it was after conversations with my wife, with my family, with my friends, it became this point in my life where this opportunity came to me, and it was part of the calling that I feel like I have in terms of contributing in this world. And it was like looking in the mirror. I saw myself and the kids that are being served by this organization. 71% are kids of color. 60% grow up in single family households. Another 25% are kids who have a parent or a family member that's incarcerated. That doesn't define them in any way. Their circumstances doesn't define them in any way. It's their potential. It's innately who they are, because we know that talent is everywhere in this country. Opportunity is not. And what this organization does is it creates that platform. It creates the relationship that empower young people, kids like Ryan, to be able to find their potential, to achieve it, and to be catalysts to change the communities that are around them. That is what I feel like my calling is. That's why I'm in this role today. And that's why I'm proud to talk about it with so much passion.
So it's deeply personal. And I love what you said, talent really is everywhere. It's good to shed a light on opportunity is not, and it's kind of bringing that to light, right? We need to make sure that everyone has opportunities. And so that's great to hear. And I know you've only been in the role for a few months now, but what's been the biggest change that your team has experienced, since last March? And have you shifted gears as it relates to your marketing effort with everyone kind of working from home with COVID? And I'm not sure if you guys are back in the office or how you kind of see things going that way.
Yeah, we're not. And I mean, it's probably like most companies, organizations, purpose, social impact organizations, we're all trying to figure it out. We're all still trying to figure it out, how we're going to come back, what's that going to look like. The only thing I can say is I know it's going to be different than what it was before we came into the pandemic. I will tell you, it's made us have to pivot, like every organization. We are an organization that as I just explained, our foundation is based upon that one-to-one mentoring connection. So a lot of it was built on the idea of being in person, right? So we create in-person relationships, the value of the big, which is the volunteer, the adult, that's connected to the little, the young person. And then that match is made. And then there are things that happen, right? The relationships, the community engagement, the sense of working with the families, the home visits, all the different things where you have these in-person touch points, connections, where you're building trust, where you're building those relationships, where that all ended, right? That all ended with the pandemic. So we had to pivot quickly to really understand what was going on with our families and what we were seeing, and then how we provided solutions to truly support what was happening with our families. As I just described with you, our families were facing some of the most adverse experiences that any community could have faced, right? So our kids typically face what we call adverse childhood experiences. That means go through some of the biggest challenges when it comes to educationally, economically, socially in their lives than the national youth population in general. So that meant we had to step in and think about, one, how are we pivoting to provide services to support what they were going through and where's their families? So we had our bigs, our volunteers, our staff on the grounds, our local agencies who are incredible. They were bringing food to houses. They were setting up Wi-Fi channels so that our littles could do homework when they didn't have the Wi-Fi channels. They were doing homework help and reading connections while the little was sitting on the porch and then the big would be in the front yard. They were trying to think about all these innovative ways where they could still keep the connection going. And then the other thing that we did was significant and is still ongoing is the idea of how we use virtual connection, how we use digital connection to truly build bridges and build connections between our bigs, our littles, our families, our staff person. So we implemented a lot of work in that space, in that area, in terms of building sort of this virtual platform that's still in work, that's a work still in progress, but it's been important not to replace in person, but to be a supplement for what we do in person, so that now there is instant messaging. that our volunteers and our littles can do together. Now our staff can be able to instantly check more activity about what's happening with the little in real time in terms of being able to connect with the parent. Now we're able to deliver and create virtual content so that we can provide curriculum-based things that our volunteers can do quickly, and to be able to look up on their phones and to be able to drive connections in terms of educational, career development, some type of social development, emotional health. And then there's also the channel to bring other organizations and the other experts in, so that when we identify gaps, opportunities, challenges, we're able to look to see what's else in the community that can provide a service to the young person holistically and to supporting their family as well. So there's been a lot of adjusting that we've had to go through during the pandemic, and we're still experiencing, but we're trying to do it in the right way that allows for our volunteers to really have the upper hand in supporting their young people, so that our young people are really in the best position to succeed.
I love that. I love that. I love that you guys are using technology as well. It's like, maybe if this would have happened, 10, 20 years ago, things would look different. But now, in these modern times, you're able to connect through technology, and then also through, social distancing and coming up with new ways to innovate how bigs and littles connect. That's great. And then with marketing dollars being scrutinized more than ever in response to COVID, how are you guys maximizing your marketing efforts? I know it helps with donors like Ryan, bringing in some money as well, but how are you maximizing your marketing?
Yeah, well, I'll just say it's critical for donors, right? The other thing that's really important to understand about our model is that we're 100% free to our families. We don't charge a dime, right? And some of that is because of what I just said, Jordan, is because the families that we serve, many of them can't afford that, right? Many of them can't afford the cost. So what we depend on is two incredible things: volunteers and funding. So volunteers, to be able to have a steady force of volunteers who are giving up their time to support and to create these matches. And then the second piece of it is the investment, so that the match can happen, right? They just don't happen by magic, right? Even though it may feel magical, it just doesn't happen by magic. So you have to actually do home visits, right? We have to see the family, we have to understand the family. We have to do the background checks on the volunteers. We have to understand who they are. And then we have to make that perfect match, right? That's going to be sustainable, that's going to be strong, that's going to be safe, that's going to create the right opportunities. And then you have a staff person that's continuing to monitor that, to manage it, to cultivate, to provide the support. All that costs to make sure that happens. So for us to do that, we have to ensure that our marketing is really focused on how do we engage the volunteer base, as well as how do we engage the investor and the donor marketplace. So we've done a lot of things in terms of focusing on those two areas. I think one, on volunteers, we know we have 30,000 young people right now on our waiting list. 30,000, Jordan. And most of those kids, they're boys. Most of those kids are boys of color. We know that there's an imperative in our country, and an imperative in the work that we do, is to get more men engaged. We still need women, don't get me wrong, right? We need everybody to the table. But there's certainly an emphasis on getting more men to the table. We've been successful, but we need more of it with corporate partners who bring their workforces to the table. So we're the largest provider of workplace mentoring in the program. And we work with some of the top companies across the country on workplace mentoring programs. But that is a huge value add for us to be able to step to the table with a company and say, hey, we have thousands of employees. We can maybe think about strategies together to mobilize people to be able to work in their community. And what happens is the young people, the communities are impacted, but the volunteers, their workforce, they feel much more engaged in their community. They feel much more connected to the work that they're doing in their company. The company's halo effect and the power of their purpose becomes to life even more through the work that they do with Big Brothers, Big Sisters. And then the other aspect of this is that part of what our teams have been doing is working a lot through video and digital, right? Because they're less expensive, but the ability for us to ensure that our message is amplifying through content and content distribution to content sharing has been critically important for the work that we do, because we are a federated system. So we have local agencies on the ground with their own 501c3s. But if we can create a unified system with our voice to be able to collectively share and talk about the impact through stories and our young people, which is our most powerful testimony, then it allows us to speak more convincingly, compellingly to donors, to supporters, and particularly to volunteers who can support us.
Yeah, that brings me to my next question. Specifically, can you talk about your Dreaming Big campaign that's in partnership with the Arby's Foundation? So I just wanted to highlight that one company in particular, if you could talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, well, Artis has just been an amazing partner. I mean, you're talking about more than 3 decades of supporting Big Brothers, Big Sisters. That's what you call legacy. That's what you call sustaining the incredible work that we're doing. And it takes partners like that to really engage. And Arby's has been what we call a truly holistic partner, right? A 360 partner. So they certainly do the commitment and raising funds that are critically important for our work. So they've raised over $32 million for local Big Brothers, Big Sisters all across the country. This happens through their in-store campaign. So this idea of dreaming big was this concept that they came up with us a while ago, was about young people pursuing their dreams with confidence, right? Having that sense of where your potential could go. And then it was about storytelling. So we wanted to really bring that to life in RV stores, that consumers could participate and talk about their dreams, talk about the dreams for their kids, talk about their dreams of connections for young people. And then so we made that an experience because it was such embedded and such embrace in this idea of dreaming and innovation and inspiration that's part of Arby's brand. So we wanted to ensure that we were doing something that felt truly authentic to who they were and truly authentic to who we are, and then having a shared approach to how we go about activation. So that activation in store, the sense of getting their employees involved in career mentoring and supporting young people in their dreams for careers and for opportunities. Having a website where we could tell and collect these stories and be able to do the engagement and the sharing that I just talked about. And there's so much more that we're looking to do with them from each standpoint. But what we know is that the power of what we do with them is both nationally, but it's also in local communities. And over 3 decades, we've been able to integrate. There are Arby's professionals who sit on our local boards for our local agencies, because we want the partnerships that we build to not just be one and done. We want them to be sustainable partnerships at every level. And that's the kind of model that Arby's has been in terms of investing in Big Brothers, Big Sisters.
Yeah, that's great to know. It's good to know it's not just some kind of PR thing. They're heavily involved, on a day-to-day basis. And, I was looking at your site and I saw from little to CEO, and they're doing great things over at Arby's with you guys. So glad to hear that. And, hopefully we have, light at the end of the tunnel with the pandemic. And as we make our way out of it and transition into the new normal, how are you guys thinking about your marketing and content as we transition into the new normal?
Yeah, Jordan, is going to continue to be on, I know the old expression, right? Content is king. It's going to continue to be on the focus of content. Our messaging is going to be squarely focused on what we call JEDI, justice, equity, diversity, inclusion. As I mentioned, we're born from the justice system. We believe in the sense of bringing every kid into the circle, but particularly those kids who've been most marginalized, particularly the kids who don't always have the opportunities and the access, no matter whether that has to do with the race, ethnicity, gender, who they love, the sense of region and geographics, that there's so much, right? There's so many kids and so many communities in the country that's been left out of the circle many times. And we have an opportunity and a role to really support that, and particularly in an area, in a space where so many communities and kids are facing significant trauma. We've also known, secondly, that our launch, right, of a virtual mentoring platform and curriculum is critically important. So as I shared before, we're all having to change, and it won't be the same way when we leave out of the pandemic. And I think in some ways, this has made us more innovative, to be very honest with you. It's pushed us to be more innovative. So probably the biggest launch that we're looking forward to and seeking also partnership with is, how do we launch a nationwide scale virtual mentoring and e-mentoring program that can really be powerful, really be effective, have the right content and curriculum. So that's going to be one of the things that we focus on as we continue to move forward. We're doing it now, but we need to do it even more. And then the last thing I'll say is just our partnership and our brand with our partners. I think it's so important, particularly around career readiness. We're seeing so much more. 50% of the kids we serve are 13 and up. We're one of those unique organizations that we serve elementary, we serve middle, we serve high school. But interesting enough, here's something you may not know. We serve 18 to 25, right? Kids who leave for whether it's college, vocational school, technical school, enlistment in the military, entrepreneurship, employment. We're growing that space in the area because we know that the story's not done when you graduate. there's so much more that you're trying to guide and navigate in life. So what we're building out is, how do we look at 18 to 25-year-olds? One is, how do we help them and support the continuation of being mentored, but also turning that back around? All the impact that you had, how do we turn that back around to people that maybe our high school youth, maybe our middle school youth may relate to even a little bit more sometimes because of the closeness in age. So we're trying to use that as an amplification for our mentoring programs and work as well.
That's great. And what are some strategic partnerships or collaborations that you formed recently in response to social injustice this year and COVID? I think I saw something recently about iHeartMedia. I don't know if you want to talk about that. It looks like an exciting partnership. But I'll let you answer.
Yeah, I'll hit a couple of them real quick.
Sure.
One is just because we all saw and heard the verdict yesterday, and one of the things that was really important for us is being able to go into communities that face that kind of trauma and provide the kind of mentorship relationship for young people, counseling, coaching, support, and building community and spaces, safe spaces for conversations that happen, healing to take place. So we're working with Starbucks Foundation on something called Relationship Responders. And it's exactly to do that, where it's a grant that allows staff, so trained staff, professional staff, you're talking about people who have experience in trauma and really have a trauma-informed care type of focus on bringing communities together. So we're doing that right now, today, in Minneapolis. We're coaching and supporting young people. We're supporting the staff there at our local Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Twin Cities. We're supporting to talk about the idea of conflict, racism, brutality, other injustices, but the process of healing, right? And these highly trained units are going in to really be these units to help to turn around certain aspects of what they see, bring community in, build partnerships and alignment. So we're doing that as these things happen, that we can critically go in and have these incident response units that act swiftly and to support the work that we're doing. So that it's something that's incredibly innovative. We love the work and we're thankful to Starbucks for supporting us. On the same token though, we just launched this relationship with iHeartMedia that I am super excited about as well, because the iHeartMedia comes from another end, right? So we know if we're going to continue to sustain the impact, we got to have those volunteers that I told you about, right? So iHeart is looking and say, well, we can be the kind of partner that will give you the amplification of media, right? How do we think about media? How do we think about communications? How do we think about reaching with talent and audiences? So they're partnering with us on paid PSAs, or I should say non-paid PSAs across their radio channels, how they're thinking about their talent and engaging their talent with us. They're supporting our big national conference in this June, where they're going to be one of the big event sponsors that help us to truly bring that platform to reach more, but all with the focus of how do we get more men engaged and involved in our work. I'm also excited and honored to be part of their Black Information Network Advisory Board, which is a 24/7 information news channel to the Black community. And we're talking about some really important things of how we engage the Black community more effectively. How do we think about the insights? What are the types of content? And then how does organizations like ours support and work in those efforts so that we can create mutual value together? So there's some really incredible things that we're doing. And we continue to look at these things through organizations like those, organizations like Comcast, NBC Universal, who is the biggest supporter of our workplace mentoring program. So as we think about those careers, we need the types of companies who think about how can we build the platforms that allow virtual mentoring, career mentoring to take place. And when you have companies like Comcast, they help you to amplify that across the country in some really strategic ways, as well as helping us with PSA and media and storytelling too.
I love that. I love that. And that's my next question. We have a partnership with the NFL at Influential. We work with all 32 teams. And I'd love for you to talk a little bit about your NFL partnership with the Big Draft 2021 that I believe is coming up shortly. I'd love to hear about that.
Yeah, so I have to say to you, if you're tuning in right now, you have to sign up for this. So it is a really cool campaign. It's called Big Draft campaign. It's a partnership that we have with the NFL. You can actually go to bigdraft21.com to find out more about the ambassadors, those that are involved with us. But essentially, Jordan, what it makes up is we've had a long-standing relationship with the NFL, particularly on the Inspire Change, their social justice initiative. So we partnered with the NFL in a number of different ways. The NFL has been really committed to their teams, their organizational, their institutional structure overall. There's been, of course, a lot of conversation about the impact of athletes, the impact of sports leagues. They have tremendous influence. So they're working with us to help to draft. So while the NFL is going through this process of drafting new players, well, we're also a parallel track with the NFL support, drafting new bigs, right, as volunteers. So of course they have significant reach to so many audiences, men and women, kids, so many different communities. But of course, with their huge audience reach to men, this is another channel that allows us and gives us opportunity to work with the NFL and work with teams to help recruit more bigs to come in. This website's cool because it now takes players. And I know many of you remember, sort of the My Cleats, My Cause campaign in the NFL. We're doing customization ourselves, right? So we have these little lockers that's going to feature each player that's part of this work. And then you can sort of find out about their mentoring stories, find out about who they are, their background, their experiences as well. And then the last thing I'll say to this, because we've worked with them in so many different ways, they've been incredible in terms of their financial investment, incredible in terms of giving us exposure. They aired media and content for us during the Super Bowl. I've served on the Super Bowl panel to talk about Black entrepreneurship, other forms of mentoring as well. But what I'm also excited about is that same point that we talked about in terms of connection locally. So their teams are connected. They're on our boards. They're volunteers. Their staff are volunteering with our local bigs. Heck, the Commissioner Goodell is on our local New York board. So the very top of the league is on the board of Big Brothers Big Sisters of New York, right? So their commitment of who they are in terms of the owners, the players, the management, everyone around the NFL community supports Big Brothers Big Sisters just out of this world. And we couldn't have better partners who are invested with us and invested for the cause of kids.
That's so great. And this is an influencer marketing summit. So my next question is, what social media platforms have been most important to you guys driving awareness for your charitable and philanthropic initiatives this year?
Yeah, so when we look at it, of course, we use them all. But for us, a lot of things in storytelling that we've done has certainly been, and it's been for different ways. So I'm not sure there's one that's been better. It's just been different, if that makes sense. So for a lot of the work that we're doing, particularly when we think about our alumni and engaging our alumni, a lot of it's been through LinkedIn and Facebook, just because of the types of channels they are, the ability to sort of switch and tell stories in some types of ways. We've been able to do a bit more formalized communications and work between getting involved and getting connected. Twitter has been incredibly important for us, particularly as we've been thinking about how we share a lot of the highlights of our stories and get some of our influencers involved. And the more that we've gotten those influencers, a lot of them have large Twitter followings, and being able to use and leverage that as part of the work that we do. I will tell you probably one of the fastest growing uses that we've had has been through Instagram. And that's been a lot through the sense of content sharing, right? Content, pictures, imagery, video as well. But that's probably been the common thread throughout everything that we're doing. The strong focus on how do we share content and how do we do really innovative and integrated projects with some of our partners. And of course, I think our foundational sort of video way that we've been developing has been a lot of work and a lot of things that we've been doing through YouTube as well. So they all play their role. What we've been trying to do is to speak more around how are we listening to our audience. So doing a lot of social listening and understanding that we're feeding the right content. That it's not simply stuff that we're pushing out, but it's really a relationship, and we're driving conversation and relationship. And then also, how are we working with our influencers and partners on aligned social strategies, right? So that we can do this as a much broader community than just one voice alone.
That's great. So it sounds like you guys are working with many different platforms and kind of tailoring it to that platform's strengths, which is great to hear. And what's been a key motivator that gets you up each morning during these times?
Yeah, I wish I had the picture pulled up here, but my motivation is my family, man. Like it's this pandemic, it's been tough it's been a struggle for so many of us. But I'm also fortunate because I know that so many other people are up against it so much more harder than I am, right? In terms of things that they're facing. I have the benefit of having an incredible wife who is the glue of my family and supports every single thing that I'm doing, but also vice versa. I'm supporting a lot of the different things that she's doing as well. And then two beautiful girls who are the light of my life. And they are what gets me up every single morning. We always say the same thing before they leave for school. It's sort of our little line, our little motto, if you will. Be smart, be strong, be kind, and be you, right? That gives me motivation. It's really for them to go out for school, but it gives me just as much motivation as I'm starting my day.
Yeah, and what's something that you're looking forward to this year in your work and the industry at large?
I'm looking forward to ultimately getting out there, right? So I've started like some folks who started in the pandemic, starting a job in the pandemic. The only way I've been able to meet people is virtually. So I haven't been able to like see a lot of the folks on the ground, for example, our local agencies, again, who are amazing. So our local, if you haven't connected with your local Big Brothers, Big Sisters agency, I so encourage you to do that just by going onto our site at bbbs.org so you can find your local agency. But I am so excited to get to meet them, to get immersed in the mission, to meet the young people and the families that are out there. I'm looking forward to that. And I will say just in the industry at large, for me, a lot of it is things like this, right? Being able to connect with other marketers, other brand, even though I'm a CEO now, I'm still a marketer. That never changes, right? So I'm looking forward to the experience of being able to connect with them, have those opportunities to engage, to talk about things, to learn, to share and to contribute. So it's exciting and looking forward to what's to come.
Awesome. And we have a few questions from the audience right now. So I'll throw those out there. I know you talked about this a little bit, but how important is the influencer in your marketing strategy and messaging, and how do you identify who is the right fit? I know you mentioned some social listening, but how do you guys identify the right person on your end for influencers? I don't think you're on mute. If you want to unmute.
Sorry, still getting used to technology, even though we've been in it for a while. So let me start with who's our most authentic and most powerful influencer. It's our young people, right? That is our true content. Even when we engage more prominent individuals, people that you may see on the cover of a magazine or in a video or something, it's to shine a light on our young people, right? Because that's ultimately what the authenticity is. Even if the authenticity is, hey, I have a story, the authenticity is about young people today and the difference they can make and what we all want to do to support them. So the content that we start with is our young people and the bigs, the volunteers who make a change in their life and the impact that they make. So I start there. That's our inner circle of where we find the most powerful content, where we get the most interaction and engagement online and digitally and through our social channels. But to the question, I will say, values are really important for us, right? So we have to, look at people who we think will have the ability and the potential to share, our values, right? And it has to be a value for the passion of young people. It has to be the commitment to the work that we're doing. And then it has to be something that we look at and we say, these are the types of people that we feel long-term will represent our values and represent our values powerfully. Levante David with Tampa Bay Buccaneers is a perfect example of someone who's been an ambassador for us, that's been connected with us because of the values that we share with him, because of his commitment to his community, to his family, and to the stories that we tell. So we try to look at those types of things and be more to the authenticity of who we are. We certainly understand that we also have to look at our audiences and who we're trying to attract. So of course, if we're trying to attract more men, one of the things that we know that when we diversify our field of influencers are people that connect with that audience, people that relate to that audience. So we do have the lens on the audience, but I always start from the sense of you can do all the audience listening and it's great and you should, and I'm a huge proponent of it, but you can't miss the step of what is it that brings authenticity to the table about who you are and your organization and your values, because that's step number one. And hopefully when you're doing it right, you're bridging that to the mission, to the marketplace and what you're hearing in the marketplace, because those things should be connected for you to create that true bond for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, that's so true. It's just, you guys are very authentic with that. So it's great to hear. And another question that just came in, how do you continue to learn in order to stay on top of things within your role?
Repeat the question. I missed the middle
How
part.
do you continue to learn in order to stay on top of things within your role?
Yeah, well, a lot of it, of course, is reading and engaging in different types of reading, by the way, right? So I think sometimes as marketers, what you can get caught in is what's the latest marketing, what's the latest brand building, or what's the latest storytelling book. We should be learning from every single aspect. And it's not just all books, right? You know, one of the things that I spend a lot of time on is Twitter, right? Just sort of like reading feeds, looking at what news stories are hitting, talking to my staff, talking to colleagues and people out in the marketplace. Listening, that helps me grow, right? Listening and learning from sessions like this, which you all do, I think is an incredible platform for learning and seeing other leaders and how they engage. But I want to go just quickly back to the whole thing about, you know, who you learn from, right? You have to learn from different people. I'll tell you one of the most powerful books that I've read, which I think a lot can be attributed to how you tell the story and the powerful, is Michelle Obama's book on becoming. Like, I would, like, anyone, if you're listening to me, you should read that book, right? If you want to, and even in terms of how you talk about purpose, how you talk about your personal story, right? Put politics aside, right? This is not about politics or who's this or that, right? You can get it from so many different sources. Get it from what that's going to help you grow and learn and give you an advantage to your growth and your development. So that's the way I typically think about it. There's something to take away, even if sometimes the takeaway is it's not so good. At least you learn that that's not what you're supposed to be doing, right?
Definitely, yeah. Learn the wrong thing so you know what the right thing to do is, right?
That's right.
Another question, what soft skill do you feel has been the most important in your career growth?
Soft skills?
Correct, yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's an easy one, my friend. I will tell you, resilience.
Oh, there you go.
So, and this is what I try to teach my kids. It's like you got to learn that it's not going to always come easy, right? And this is, I'm telling you, I'm sorry, I'm going off here, so forgive me, everyone who's listening to this. I'm probably going off a little bit on the family. I always tell my kids, right, that it's not easy, and if everything's handed to you, if you just get everything, you don't learn the sense of what it takes to achieve, what it takes to accomplish, and then the growth that you do through the resilience that you have to go through to earn something, so to learn something. So I know sometimes they get frustrated that they can't get it, that immediate gratification. And I was like, well, sorry, you got to learn, you got to go through the process.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, one of the most valuable lessons that I've learned in life has been through failure, right? The reason that I went I was still going to I thought I was going to University of Georgia to play football, right? And I had a fail in my junior year. I got seriously injured and it put me in a state of depression, right? And I had mentors in the community that picked me up and said, you're not defined by that. That's not who you are. What you are is so much more than the idea of being a football player. And it made me have to step back. And even though so much of my focus was on, hey, refining my craft as a ball player, refining my craft as a running back, it made me think and say, I got to refine my craft just as a person and as an achiever just as much. And I still ended up going to the same university, just in a different way, academically, right? Because I had to refine and understand that resilience, that block that was put in my life, was a block for me to pivot, to think about who I was, but to think about that in the sense of where I needed to go and really finding my true purpose in life. And I look at things now in that light and in that way, Jordan, that the things that are put in your life a lot of times are not things that are meant to knock you down. It's things that's meant to put you down so you can get back up and go in the right direction of where you need to go.
That's a great story. And, you know, you probably thought at the time the injury was just a huge blow and you just didn't know why this was happening, right? And then maybe without that injury, you wouldn't be who you are today. You know, it kind of helped you shape, you know, your life. So that's great to hear. Another question that just came in, what are some of the best ways that brand marketers can help big brothers, big sisters?
Brand marketers? Oh, so why don't you just come and sit down with me? I can give you about 500 of them. but seriously, I think working with us to help tell the story, a mutual shared story. I just gave you some examples, NFL, Starbucks, right? Merrell's another perfect example of a great partner, outdoor. that we're doing some incredible work about outdoor equity is another incredible example. But we have a shared story to tell. We have an amazing opportunity. And when I say we, I think corporate America, there's such an amazing opportunity with all the might, influence, resources that you have to truly make impact and difference. And you're doing that. A lot of companies are doing it, and they're doing it authentically. But when you come to Big Brothers, Big Sisters, what I tell folks, and I'll tell some of the biggest brands this, right? That, what'll make us walk away from the table, no matter who you are, if you don't come to the table with the sense of authenticity, meaning we're in this to impact young people, right? We're not in this to simply raise a sale. We're in this to impact young people. If we start at that place, I promise you that all the other things, the good that comes along from a business standpoint with the good that you're doing is going to amplify, because the way that we build out our partnership together is going to start from the right place. The other thing that I'd say is you got to be all in. This is not a one-time or a transactional deal. This is about building transformative partnerships, sustainable outcomes, so that we impact both young people, but also creating the value that you want to create long-term for your employees, for your CSR strategies, for what you may be doing with retail, what you want to do in terms of your PR and your marketing strategies, or your holistic standpoint of content engagement from your digital platforms. That there's so much that we can do together, but we have to look at it more in the long term. And then the last thing I'll tell them is that you got to invest. You got to invest financially. You got to invest with your time. You got to invest with your expertise. And then the expectation that we bring to the table is that we're going to use that investment wisely, that we're going to ensure that the ROI of your investment is well spent, and that we're producing the type of outcomes together that's going to truly make a change and hopefully be an incredible business value for your investment.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And this is a fun question that just came in. Who are some of the most famous alumni that have come through Big Brothers, Big Sisters? We'll quiz you on your knowledge of that.
Oh man, well, I'll tell you. I'm gonna talk about one, because listen, I've been wanting to go after this guy for the longest. So I'm just gonna call him out as one. So I'm just gonna speak to one here. Michael B. Jordan. Michael B. Jordan was a little in New Jersey, and by the way, anybody knows Michael B. Jordan? Hey, call me. But he's
let us know.
Yeah, he's someone I know for a while that we've been looking to engage and looking to bring on board effectively. We have a number of them. I will tell you, Jordan. Here's one of our issues: is that we are looking to launch a nationwide alumni and champions initiative. Right, so we're right now in the process of thinking about how we do it. How do we have all the back end technology? We've been working with Salesforce on the back end side of it, but we also are thinking about the front end, right? How do we do it? What's the messaging? What's the communications? How do we bring in that right channel to bring people in, cultivation, our local networks, all the stuff that's involved. So some of this is that we don't even know all the folks out there. We know there are millions. We see it every day. Those Ryan stories are stories that I get in my inbox every day. It's things that we get from partners who come to us and say, I was not, like every conversation I'm on with a partner, there's always someone or a number of people who say that I'm an alum. But we got to get to the point of understanding, identifying who those folks are.
That's a great answer. Looks like Chris just joined, so it might be wrapping up here. But yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Artis, for taking the time. And it was a pleasure, as always, speaking with you again.
Hey, I really enjoyed it. Always a pleasure speaking with you, my friend. And again, thanks to you guys and Influential for bringing me on again to the Brand Innovators Summit. Always a great experience.
Thanks so much, Artis. We really appreciate you. Obviously, we appreciate your organization. It has had, Ryan, they sent me off in the middle of that, and I was like, damn it, put me back on. So they put me back on. But, it's funny because even though Clayton was Ryan's big brother, he equally became mine as well. I thought I was too old at the time. I think Ryan was like 8 or 9 and I was like 14. And I was like, I don't need a big brother or whatever. Sure enough, I did. And we needed this man all the way up until he died. He was fantastic. It's funny enough, he was our dentist. So we had dental care taking care of our whole lives.
Wow.
He was the sweetest, kindest man. Took us to most of our biggest sporting events that we ever went to in our lives, from Dolphins games to Panthers games down in South Florida. So his impact on us was immeasurable. One last thing before you go, as you were saying about Michael B. Jordan, I started doing a little bit of research and I think I might be able to help you on that one. So I'm going to work on that.
Love it. Love it. Hey, Chris, and one last thing too for me.
Sure.
I just want to say to all your viewers, because what you just said just sparked this in my mind. Please connect with me on LinkedIn or Twitter. right? So
Yes.
go Artis Stevens on LinkedIn. And if you're a former, if you're an alum or you're big or you're little, shoot me a note, share your story, connect with me. Even if you're not, even if you're someone who's just interested, you're interested and you're just so like, hey, I would just love to connect with you. Go on to LinkedIn and go on to Twitter and connect with me. Love to connect with people.
Absolutely. And what I will say about this, about Artis specifically, for a guy who's as big of a deal as you are one of the kindest, most generous people of your time. I promise all of you, if you connect with him on LinkedIn and you reach out to him, he will hit you back. He's that kind of guy. Thank you so much, Artis. Thank you, Jordan. That was a fantastic session. We really, really appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you all. Take care.